Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Winners and Winers Radio. I am your host, Scott Steehn, lead handicapper at winnersandwiners.com. And I am joined today, as I am every other day, by my partner in crime, my co-host. He is the one, the only. He is senior handicapper at Winners and Winers. He is Scott Reichel. Scott, what's up, buddy?
Nothing much. Pretty, I'd say, uneventful Wednesday, pretty limited card, but what do you know? It's another limited card because we have one sport really to talk about, at least for our games perspective, but some of these news topics kind of all over the place. So I believe we did a pretty good job of spreading everything out.
Yeah, we did. We're going to mention a lot of things here on this show. Of course, we will be bringing you our Bet the Farm play a little bit later. Spoiler alert, Scott, we're picking up some farms, buddy.
Yes, we are. Definitely felt good to pick up a relatively sweat-free winner yesterday.
One more, and I'm going to have to start doing the show in overalls. That's how much of a farmer we're going to have to become. So,
I'll bring the straw hat.
fair enough. As always, don't forget you're listening to Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. Of course, we are brought to you by winnersandwiners.com, your one-stop shop for all things sports betting. If you're looking for free previews and predictions on every single game, every single day, Winners and Winers is your spot. It is the number one site in the world for predictive sports analysis. And by the way, did I mention it's free? It's 100% free over there at winnersandwiners.com. So make sure you get over there and check that out. All right, Scott. So you ended up doing okay. I know you've hit a little tennis action yesterday. You hit a baseball play. You're in fuego. Can we say that?
Not quite, because I unfortunately lost my play of the day with the White Sox. I had the over 4.5 runs. Anytime you can get 10 hits and you only have 2 runs, you got to wonder what happened. Probably a lot of double plays. 4. They had guys on base every inning. 4 double plays. That'll kill you.
That's absolutely brutal. And of course, you and I, we did what we try not to do. You and I kind of had a play of the day on our free video from the same game. I was lucky enough to get a push. I had the full game over 9. So, but yeah, we have got absolutely nothing out of those guys.
I can't even say Pineda pitched well. There are people on base. White Sox just couldn't capitalize.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Pineda. You're not going to be able to say Pineda pitched well very often. And
I knew I was going to have a hard time in the 3rd inning when the White Sox scored and Abreu had 1st and 3rd, 1 out. Just tailor-made ground ball right to the shortstop, double play. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be one of those days. Okay, fair enough.
The old 6-4-3, pitcher's best friend. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. All right, Scott, well, let's do it. Let's get to our show as we always do. We'll start it off with a little bit of the bad news. The people that perhaps like you and I, Scott, thought we had a winner, thought we had a good bet, and things just didn't go well, but you thought you had that winner. You thought you had it in the bag. You had that money just about spent, and then it was stolen from you at the very last minute. There's nothing you can do when something gets stolen, Scott, except call the cops. All right, very good. Let's start off with a little team near and dear to my heart. If you had the Kansas City Royals on the reverse money line plus a half a run for the first 5 innings, my goodness, you are in good shape. Those Royals break them up. Bad Brad Keller dealing from the bump. Royals had a 2-zip lead going into the 5th inning. Come on, Brad. We just need 3 more outs, buddy. Nope, we didn't get them. The Brewers not only tied it up, but they scored that 3rd run in the bottom of the 5th to take a 1-run lead. You had the Royals plus a half in the first 5 innings. Tear that ticket up and call the cops.
Second one was actually kind of a combo deal if you had either the Orioles on the money line or the Orioles raise under 8.5. 7 runs going into the 9th, so you're in good shape. Orioles were actually winning a game, which is kind of crazy. One strike away from winning, 0-2 count to Meadows, fouls off about 3 pitches, and you're thinking, please don't throw the fastball. They threw the fastball, and Meadows hit a 2-run single up the middle, walk-it-off Rays, game ended 5-4. So if you had the Orioles on the money line, getting a pretty nice price there, and if you had or if you had the under, that's a pretty bad beat.
It's brutal. We always like the combo beat, Scott, where we can throw two mints in one right at them there, and that was a brutal double if you had the under or the Orioles. Yikes! All right, and that would have been a nice play if you'd had the Orioles too.
2-1 would have been more.
Oh, there you go. Let's finish it up from your hometown team, Scott. Phillies, Yankees. You had under 10.5, pretty good shape. Yankees led 5-2 going into the 8th. How about that Yankees bullpen, Scott? You know them, you love them. Yankees scored 3 in the 8th to tie it. Well, you know that's not good if you've got under 10.5.
In the Phillies,
it was all pretty much academic from there. What's that?
You said Yankees. Phillies scored 3.
Oh, Phillies scored 3 in the 8th. Sorry, Phillies scored 3 in the 8th to tie it. Absolutely correct. It would have been much better had the Yankees scored 3, but 5-5. We'd like to be on the other side of those even numbers, and we weren't there. You had the under 10.5. Yep. Game went to extras at 5-5. No lightning strikes, no hurricanes, no reason to call it a tie. Yankees ended up walking it off, win 6-5. You had the Phillies, Yankees under 10.5. So close, and yet so far. Call the cops.
So just to interject, if the Yankees had lost that game, I would have had an easy donkey of the day replacement because Aaron Boone's bullpen management for that game was some of the worst I've ever seen. Can you explain to me, Yankees are in pretty much must-win territory, right? Because it's a little early because it's not the trade deadline, but you can agree that the team's falling in desperation mode relatively quickly. Is that fair?
I'd say they need to make a move pretty darn quick, yes.
So my question for you is, if you're up 3 runs in the 8th inning, why would you bring in a guy out of the bullpen with a 9.95 ERA that you just called up about a day ago and let him face 5 batters? Can you explain that to me? Because I don't get it.
In the immortal words of Lou Brown, I got a feeling about this guy.
I get if you have a feeling, but the bases were loaded because he walked the guy, Real Muto had a 2-run single. You didn't even have anybody warming up, so I can't even argue about the 3-batter minimum. There was nobody warming up in the pen. You don't have a backup plan? You don't have anything?
Nope, that's it. That's all you got.
I think it was even worse because they used Chapman in the 9th.
How did he do? How did he do?
He actually didn't give up a run.
Oh, I see.
But I was just saying, if you had Chapman ready to go, why would you stick with the 9.95 ERA guy after he already gave up like 2 or 3 runs? It didn't make any sense.
Can I answer this one?
Is it because Chapman stinks?
That's correct. Look at that.
I'm just saying, Nick Nelson shouldn't be in the league, let alone pitching in pretty much a must-win game for the Yankees. That was a joke, but they won anyway.
Except for the fact that he did exactly what they wanted him to do.
Who, Nelson?
Yeah.
He gave up 3 runs. They were up 5-2.
You told me you didn't give up any runs.
No, I said Chapman gave up no runs.
Oh,
Nelson blew the game, or blew the lead, but they ended up keeping it tied and the Yankees won in extras. But I don't know why you brought Nelson into that game. Well, that was atrocious.
Why'd they bring that guy in?
Because Boone's stupid? I don't really know. Made no sense.
Well, Scott, let's talk about the good news, the other side of the coin. Have you heard the good news? That's right. If you had one of these games, you had a nice, easy winner. You had an opportunity to maybe even do some chores because the game was over early and you did not have to sweat it one bit. It is time to sit in the rocking chair.
So the first one took place in an afternoon game between the Mets and the Reds. If you had the Mets on the money line at around -130, -135, nice and easy, up 5-0 in the after the 3rd inning, led 7-0 after 5 innings, won the game 7-0. Kind of bad if you had the over because it was around 10.5 or 11.5, and you got no runs in the final 4 innings. But Mets money line, pretty easy when the other team doesn't score.
How about those amazing Mets, Scott? You had San Diego, Atlanta, game 2, over 7.5. You didn't have to wait around long for a verdict on this one. The Padres put up 4 in the top of the first. They put up 1 in the top of the second. Atlanta scored 3 in the bottom of the second. If you're calculating along at home, that comes up to 8. That's more than 7.5. That's a winner. Go cut the grass. Do some chores.
And the last one involved the Rockies and the Marlins. Mariners, sorry. If you had the Rockies on the money line, they led 5-0 after the 1st inning. And you have to wonder about the Rockies. Their pitching is bad, but for this game, it wasn't that bad. Only gave up 3 runs, but they scored 5 in the first, ended up scoring a 6th. The game ended 6-3.
All right, very good. Well, Scott, it's our new segment. Well, we can't even call it new anymore. We've been doing it for a couple of weeks now. We'd like to point out some of the absurdities in the world of sports, some of the people that maybe did things that are questionable. Aaron Boone was leader in the clubhouse, Scott, but he was able to, the Yankees were able to pull out that victory, so he is not going to wear the crown. But it is time to make the awards, Scott. Let's envelope, please. Everybody, drum roll at home. It is time once again for Donkey of the Day. That last one is the one that always gets me.
It really is true.
I don't know what they're doing to that poor donkey. It just doesn't sound good. Scott, this one's yours. This is something that you brought to me and you said, this is really stupid. I want to do this for Donkey of the Day. And I said, let's do it. And I think you're absolutely right. So take it away, sir. The floor and the airwaves are yours.
Cool. So usually we do an institution, a team, a player, a coach, really just any type of really definitive entity. For this one, we're doing more of a process. And it was the NHL expansion draft that took place yesterday for the Seattle Kraken. That's right. They are officially a team. They now have a full roster, and they're going to be playing games. However, you might have been wondering if you wanted to watch the expansion draft, where could you have found it? And the answer was on ESPN2, because that was on at 8 p.m. So if you want to see some of your team's players be forced their way out to go to Seattle, it was pretty nerve-wracking, except for the fact that it wasn't, because Twitter leaked everyone that Seattle was going to take about 6 hours before the draft. So my question is, if everything was leaked before the draft, A, what's the point of having it? And B, why would anybody watch it if they already knew who was going to be selected?
Well, Scott, perhaps, and I'm just spitballing here, not everyone lives their life on Twitter like 24-years do.
That is fair. I think we can agree, though, that Twitter is pretty popular, at least in the sports betting universe or even the sports universe. You see issues with this in most drafts with either Schefter in the NFL or Woj breaking news about draft picks or trades before they're announced on television. So if you're on Twitter and you could usually see 5 minutes before who the Bulls pick, you know who they're going to take. However, 6 hours? Like that's a joke. You knew who they were going to take at 2 p.m, and the draft took place at 8. That's a problem.
But Scott, we have a situation here because we have to send out the certificate every day for Donkey of the Day. Who do we send it to? Who gets the blame here? Whoever leaked it? Is it the Kraken? Is it the NHL? Where is the leak? That's what I want to know. Where is the donkey, Scott? Find the donkey.
I can't blame the guy on Twitter who leaked it because that's kind of his job as an NHL insider. So he's just really good at his job.
He didn't leak it. He reported it.
No, correct. So I'm saying you mentioned the reporter. I can't blame him for doing his job.
No, not
so. I'm throwing that out. If I had to blame anybody, it's got to be the Kraken. Okay. Because either the teams that they reached out to when it came to acquiring players didn't, I guess, get the memo to keep it hush-hush for the sake of potential ESPN draft ratings, or maybe they were just fed up and they just decided to admit what happened. But Seattle probably should have done a better job of keeping it on the hush-hush, and I don't think they did. But once again, does it really matter? Was a lot of people really watching the expansion draft? Probably not. But if you're going to be airing something on TV and having people at the venue in Seattle announcing picks and everything, what's the point of bringing in Marshawn Lynch and Sue Bird and company to announce picks if everyone knows who they're taking already? Seems like a monumental waste of time to me.
Well, I would ask, what's the point of bringing in Marshawn Lynch and Sue Bird to announce a soccer draft anyway? But that's just me.
Well, it was a hockey draft. So
that's a hockey draft, rather. Sorry.
Because
either way.
They're staples of Seattle, even though Lynch retired about 2-3 years ago, kind of.
Right. Don't we have somebody, I mean, I don't know.
We'll get Jim Zorn to do a draft pick or something. Steve Largent.
Jim Zorn and Steve Largent. Dave
Sean Alexander, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. But anyway, it was mostly a process of the draft itself, but having everything leaked hours beforehand really just seemed to just defeat the purpose of even having the draft on TV at all.
Yep, agreed. It's like now did you find out? Did you follow along and you knew it?
The only team I was trying to follow was the Islanders. So I knew that Eberle was leaving at like 2 p.m, and they announced it at around 9 o'clock. And it's like, oh, they took Eberle, huge deal. And I'm like, nah, I kind of knew that happened already, but thank you for the extra $5.5 million of cap space.
Well, and I know we didn't have it on our official topics list, but what was the biggest surprise of the NHL draft? Anybody that was not protected that got taken? Anybody that you were surprised wasn't taken, who was unprotected?
I think that there were two you could talk about. The two that were obvious when it came to relatively bigger names to be taken was Eberle and Yanni Gourde. And Gourde, of course, playing for Tampa, has won the Cup the last 2 years. People remember him for scoring the shorty in Game 7 against the Islanders. So he, of course, had a big role into that title run this past year. But Tampa couldn't protect him. You knew you were going to lose him. That was kind of a foregone conclusion. Eberle was the same way. You knew that he was going to go, so that's not surprising. I guess the one surprising draft pick was Giordano, the defenseman out of Calgary, who's very good, been around for a while, pretty big contract. And I feel like that was kind of the reason why people thought they might go in an opposite direction when it came to taking one of Calgary's players. Giordano's been very good. He's been a great defenseman for a while, but that contract is pretty long, and he's getting up there in years. I think people were surprised that they ended up swallowing that contract. Now, you could mention a potential surprise was the fact that Montreal did not protect Carey Price, the Stanley Cup runner-up goalie, because his contract is actually ludicrous. And they basically told Seattle, listen, we know he's great. I dare you. You won't. You're not going to take him. The contract's too long. And Seattle said, yeah, you're right. We're not going to take him. I kind of would have loved it if they took him, just as a complete, just savage move of just grabbing a top 5 goalie in your first year in the league. But that contract is such an albatross down the road. I might have taken Price anyway. You know, create a splash. You're immediately somewhat competitive if Price stays healthy. So I can't say I was surprised they didn't take Price, but a part of me kind of wishes they did, if that makes sense.
Who did they take for their goalie?
They ended up taking, I forgot who they took. Was it Kreider, I believe, from Florida? I'm trying to remember if that was his last name. Nobody well known, but okay. Price was definitely the splash guy. They took Drieger. Sorry, it was Drieger who they took as the goalie. I said Kreider. But point is, they could have gotten Price, decided not to deal with the contract. Seattle, if you look at the overall rosters, I think the biggest surprise was that they didn't do any trades. Usually you reach an agreement with a team like what Vegas did when they had the expansion draft, which is you agree with a team like Detroit, which says, listen, we're not going to take these unprotected players, but give us a first-round pick or two. Like, give us some draft capital, and we'll agree not to take this guy. Seattle did no trades. I found that extremely bizarre.
So where do you think they finish next year?
If you look at the roster, they're not very good, but luckily for them, they're in a pretty weak division. So I actually think they'll be competitive to some degree, not for like a serious playoff team, but in one of the weaker divisions in all of hockey. I think they're going to miss the playoffs, but I think they'll probably not come in last.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. And that's probably the last we're going to talk about hockey for a while.
Well, Vegas, just for a quick betting reference here, Vegas, when they joined the league, was 500-1 to win the Cup their first year. And, of course, they lost in the Cup final, and that would have been an all-time disaster situation for the books, which I'm sure it was anyway, because I'm sure people hedged with the Capitals. But you want to guess what the Kraken's price was?
1,200.
Oh, no, it's got to be higher than that.
1,200-1.
Oh, 1,200-1. No, it was 80-1.
Oh, okay.
So the books realized, even though that Vegas team was more talented than this Kraken team, never again.
Right.
They just decided never again. They cut the odds basically, by a fifth or by 4/5. So, yeah, not exactly, I'd say a good bet to make, but if you want to try to root for a new team, sure, why not?
All right, very good. Well, Scott, you know something that we are going to be talking a lot more about in the future. That's college football. I'm pretty excited for college football. We're about 5 weeks away from the first game, I'm guessing. And, Scott, we're not without some big news. Oklahoma and Texas had about enough of the Big 12. They want to know, we could join the SEC, and you guys want to have us in the SEC? Scott, what do you think? Is that going to happen?
Texas basically told the Big 12 we're leaving, so I'm going to assume yes.
Well, they're not going to renew their media contract, so that's basically the deal. They have a media contract that expires in 2025, and at that point, they wanted to join the SEC.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, it's not for this season. You don't have to panic about your future bets on Texas to win the Big 12. So you got time to worry about that. but it seems like Texas with the media contract, as you just said, I don't want to say it's the final nail in the coffin, but it's a pretty monumental step if you want to talk about it, how seriously Texas has taken this potential move. And Oklahoma might join them. And my question that I have for you, A, is it smart for Oklahoma and Texas to join the harder conference where you probably won't make the playoff until Saban retires? I don't know if that's a fair statement to make, but I'm going to make it. And B, can the Big 12 survive losing Oklahoma and Texas?
Okay, I'll take those questions in the order you asked them. First of all, it's not going to happen. They're not going to go to the SEC. The SEC has to vote on it. All the member schools have to vote. Has to be approved. How many SEC schools are there, Scott? 14?
I believe so. I can double check that. But would they expand to 16 or would they throw some teams out?
What I was going to say is they can only have 4 no votes. 4 no votes from member schools in the SEC that dooms them. Okay. So you can write down. You can pretty much just mark this in your book right now. Mizzou and A&M are not going to let Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC. They are not voting in favor of it ever. So then you just need to find 2 more no votes in the next 4 years. I think they can do that. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I don't think the SEC wants them, Scott.
I am not sure. I kind of wonder what the point is for Texas and Oklahoma. Do you really know what the point is?
Well, I think they feel they're not getting enough exposure and respect playing in the Big 12.
Oklahoma's not getting enough exposure. They made the playoffs. They made the playoff the last couple of years.
I understand. I'm just saying they think they would get more. They'd be on more national TV games, which it's true. If they were in the SEC. Now, for your second question, can the Big 12 survive without Oklahoma and Texas? No, they cannot. That would pretty much disintegrate the conference. I believe. I don't know who you could replace them with. I don't know what sort of second tier school. When the Big 12 did their expansion a while back, there was talk of, like a Cincinnati or a Louisville or something.
I was thinking Cincinnati and Houston, but that's really the 2 I could think of.
Another one of the schools, but they're not going to take the place of Houston and Oklahoma. You obviously need
Texas and Oklahoma.
Texas and Oklahoma, right? You need to replace those schools with other Power 5 schools, and that's not going to happen.
See, the Oklahoma one I find interesting because Oklahoma's just thinking we need more respect, and yet people have seen you get embarrassed on national TV games for the last couple of years. You've kind of done that to yourself. You've been there.
If I had that defense, I would want as few people as possible to see it.
That is fair. I'm just saying you can talk about how you had to go against Bama, and that's not fair. You did also blow a double-digit lead at the half against Georgia a couple years ago there, which wasn't exactly a good look in the semis.
No.
The Texas one blows my mind here because Texas can't even win the Big 12. What are you doing? We talked about Texas the other day about how the hirings, and we didn't exactly like the Sarkisian hire, but with the horns down thing, and now Texas, if you want to get more respect, win some games, you think joining a better conference is going to help you out? I don't know. You're Texas. You shouldn't need help with recruiting.
No, I mean, because you've got right now, Texas and Oklahoma basically play, I don't know, one difficult game, and it's against each other. Of course, you throw in your West Virginias, your Oklahoma States, occasionally Kansas State, Baylor, some teams that are occasionally good. Or
I'll say Iowa State. I'll say 2 tough games there.
But, and that is the nice thing about the Big 12. I do like being a Big 12 fan for football season, Scott, because every team plays every other team.
Yep, that is true.
That is the cool part. So maybe Texas is tired of that. I don't know. I get so tired of Texas trying to dictate terms like they think they are Texas from the 70s.
It's like a mediocre outfielder demanding $30 million a year. And you're looking at them going, do you realize what you are in comparison to the landscape of, the sport you actually play?
Right.
Like I know that you think you're all that, and I know that you got McConaughey doing some random stuff with the program, and you got a stadium and the fans. I get it. Your team has not really been that good for a while. And you make the same argument that Texas and USC are kind of in the same boat, but USC hasn't asked to jump ship.
Scott, if I were going to borrow a phrase, I would say Texas right now is all hat, no cattle.
Wow.
Hmm?
Well done.
Yeah, very nice.
I like that one. But I don't understand the move for Texas because Texas has a hard time winning their conference anyway. Out of anything, Texas should help push Oklahoma out the door, and maybe they might win a conference. But I don't know.
I don't see. It's weird that Oklahoma would leave because, they've got the rivalry with Oklahoma State there. They've got the Bedlam game.
They also win the conference almost every year.
They do. That's absolutely correct.
It's one thing if you're in the AAC or you're in a conference that gets no respect from the committee because if you go undefeated, the committee's still not going to put you into the playoff. You've still been there. So I don't really know how out of anything this is an upgrade. And more likely than not, you're probably going to end up missing the playoff in comparison to making it if you jump to a better conference.
I don't, frankly, Scott, I don't really care where Texas finishes 8-4. If they want to do it in the Big 12, they want to do it in the SEC. I don't care. I'm being a Big 12 person. I watched them disintegrate the Big 12 once. I'm so tired of Texas right now. I can't see straight.
It's just a sense of entitlement there when you haven't won anything. It's just pretty annoying.
I'm very divided about Texas. I don't like the state of Texas. I don't like the Texas Longhorns. I love Austin. Austin's one of my favorite towns.
Now, based on the attitude that you're getting from the Longhorns, what percentage of Longhorn, either just faculty or fans, are also Dallas Cowboys fans with this sense of entitlement?
Oh,
it's the same thing.
105%. I don't know.
Could be. It feels that way. I'll tell you that much. And don't get me wrong, I still like the Cowboys, but the fan base is absolutely atrocious.
Yes,
it's so bad.
It's America's team, buddy.
Yep.
All right, Scott, switching gears a little bit here, staying in the NCAA, but moving on to Division II and moving on to basketball. The Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, Scott, that is a D2 conference. Can you name any schools in there?
No.
Okay. All right. I didn't know. They made news today because they are going to be the first conference to mandate vaccinations. And you and I talked about this just yesterday, Scott. And we hate to talk about COVID every day, but it seems like every day there's a new COVID story, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's college sports, whatever it is. So today, one conference said, you know what? We're not doing this. We're not playing this game. We're not doing this stuff. We're not going on the honor system. Everybody is going to get vaccinated, or you're not going to play. Scott, how do you feel about that?
I'm kind of just going to make sure that we keep better care of our crystal ball because I don't think we could have predicted this any better. Could we have?
No, because that was one of the things we talked about that would have to be an option. That's absolutely correct. So
I have to assume that it's going to go relatively well because I'm assuming that a lot of these players maybe don't have any other options. I feel like if some of them are on scholarship for D2 does have scholarships, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm assuming a lot of them on the basketball team are, and if you're a D2 player, it's not like you're going to really find greener pastures and other options. You're probably staying for the education, right? Wouldn't you assume so?
I believe so. Scott, it looks like, I believe this is going to be a D2 division of HB, you know what I'm saying, historically black university, HBUCs.
HBCUs, I think.
HBCUs, sorry. It has Morehouse, Savannah State, Tuskegee.
I know Savannah State because they used to be D1. They went down like a year or two ago.
Right. So
I missed that team. They had the fastest pace in the country, and they couldn't play any defense.
Loved them.
I missed that team.
Loved them over machines. So yeah, that's who it's going to be. So I guess for starters, on a personal level, do you agree with it?
It doesn't bother me. We talked about it yesterday. I wasn't sure how feasible it would be. I mentioned how there would be some issues because of the fact that you have to wonder about keeping college kids in a contained environment on a campus with thousands and thousands of people. I'm assuming these D2 campuses are naturally smaller than these D1 campuses. So that kind of helps eliminate some of the issue that I laid out in yesterday's show. I still am curious how exactly you can force them to do it. You're just going to dangle their scholarship and say, don't do it and we'll get rid of you. Is that legal? I don't really know if you can do that. So you might have some legal fallback there. I don't really know. I like the idea in principle. You got to try to move on with the world. You got to try to do your part.
Right. I agree. I totally agree.
But what do you do if you're anti-vax, though? You're just going to tell the person, listen, your beliefs are stupid. You got to listen to us?
No, you don't have to. There doesn't have to be any kind of recrimination. There doesn't have to be any kind of judgment at all. You just have to say, this is a decision that we have made as a conference. If it doesn't fit with your personal belief system, perhaps another college would be a better fit for you.
I get that, but I think we can agree that if you are going all in on the approach of you need to be vaccinated, then you're kind of looking at anti-vaxxers as we probably don't want you anyway. Is that a fair way to put it? Indirectly, but that's kind of the message you're sending, isn't it?
Yes, that is exactly the message that you're sending.
I don't think that message will be well received. So we'll see if there's fallback. I think there will be. But the truth is, I'm vaccinated. You're vaccinated. I don't have a problem with it. I don't believe in the tracker conspiracy theories, so I'm not really worried about it. But either way, they're doing their part. I'm not going to criticize them for trying something.
Let me ask you an aside here, Scott. Do you think, because you're a sports bettor by profession and you understand numbers, you think you and I and other sports bettors have had a easier time understanding COVID and the vaccination and the odds and the laws of big numbers and things like that, that when people say, well, I've heard of somebody that had the vaccine that got COVID and died. Right. Because it's not 100%. You know, when a vaccine is 96% effective, that means 4 times out of 100, it's not. So I think
you can imply the same situation. Of course, the percentage is higher for you to still get COVID comparing to winning the lottery. But you make an argument saying, well, if the most common outcome, 99.999 whatever percent, is that you lose, and then you find out one guy won, that's going to happen. Somebody's going to win, but most people are going to have the same outcome. Right. In this case, most people get the vaccine are not going to get COVID, or if they do, it's going to limit the side effects.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So here's the other question. This is the obvious elephant in the room. First of all, does it spread to other schools at the D2, D3, NAIA level?
I think it has to.
And the big question, does it get to D1?
D1 is going to come last. I don't see a D1 team jumping the ship before a lot of D2 conferences and D3 conferences do it, because it's more of a guinea pig philosophy. Because I think you'd agree the D2 teams have less to lose than the D1 teams in the situation, because I'm sure the revenue for the D1 teams is a lot higher. You can try it in D1 maybe for crew, softball, other sports, but I think for the football and basketball situations, or even college baseball for some actual D1 programs, I think you run a big risk of maybe potentially alienating some really, really sought-after prospects who have really, really solid pro futures. Okay. So I think that might be the last nail there. But I think you might see it for minor sports in D1 schools. You?
Well, the thing about it is you've got to do it pretty quick, because you're talking about doing it for baseball. That's a spring sport, obviously.
Yeah.
And so basketball is about the soonest you could roll that out.
In basketball, you could try it in tennis, really just anything. Not anything within the next month or so, because that's going to be way too soon. But you don't understand what I mean.
I think it has a lot to do with a couple of things, Scott. I think, first of all, it has a lot to do with how the Olympics go. I think if the Olympics turn into a cluster fan the way that you and I are afraid that they will.
Is the opening ceremony tonight? Or
it is Friday. It is tomorrow night, right? Okay. So I think if the Olympics turn into a 3-ring circus and a lot of people get sick, I think that makes a difference. And I think if they start having problems in football, I think that makes a difference. So I think right now, my opinion is that they won't be doing it in D1 unless there are extenuating circumstances and everything just kind of goes to hell here this late summer and fall.
I'm assuming the SEC are not going to do it because they'd rather just have teams forfeit games.
I don't think the SEC is going to do it yet.
I don't think they're going to. So that's what I'm saying. Can you really have a situation where you have some conferences do it, some conferences don't? Would that impact out-of-conference scheduling? I don't really know.
I know. And does it become a question for recruits? You know, if you're pro-vax or anti-vax, is that part of the process? Where do you guys stand on mandatory vaccinations?
I think that's too far down the road, because people are going to be hoping that COVID's behind us by then, whether it's actually going to be or not. But right. I just mean conceptually, if you require your entire team, let's just say the ACC, right? You have Clemson, who decides, yeah, we're going to entirely vaccinate. And they do. And then your first out-of-conference game is against, let's just say, Tennessee in the SEC, right? Are you just going to play a team that has non-vax players and run the risk of potential COVID? Like, what do you do?
I think you are. I think at that point,
You travel to Knoxville in a city that's potentially not vaccinated and just say, here you go, we vaccinated everybody, so we're going to travel wherever?
I think that's it. I think you say, you know what, we're going to play the odds. You've got a number of kids that are young. They've been vaccinated. They're in fantastic shape. We're going to let the chips fall where they may. We've done everything we can. To me, Scott, that's the key. We've done everything we can to mitigate this crisis. We have done everything we can to keep it from spreading, to keep our players safe. And until you can say that, I don't know where we end up in all of this, because obviously the problem, again, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole more than we already have, but the problem with people that aren't vaccinated, people say, well, if you're vaccinated, why should I care? Well, it simply is this: because the virus does what a virus does. It continues to mutate, and it adapts to its host, and it tries to find new ways in. And
it spreads. That's really the only way to put it.
And what everybody is worried about is the Delta variant is going to turn into the Epsilon variant. And one of these variants are going to be entirely vaccine resistant. And then we're going to have to start over at square one. So
you know more about this stuff than I do, but we're on the same page. That
I'm old and fat, Scott. I have a rooting interest in getting rid of the vaccine.
Fair.
Not going to lie. All right, my friend. Well, here's a phrase that I don't say enough. And according to somebody in my house, I should say it more. Scott, my wife was right. By the way, when you get married, remember that phrase. My wife was right. For the entire time that I've been a sports bettor, my wife has claimed that women are out there betting on sports. They just don't show up as much. They're not as visible, but they're there. They're making their bets. Well, lo and behold, new study came out, and they did the state of New Jersey. They did a kind of a it was put on by 888, which has a couple of internet gambling sites. They had a promotion. They tracked the people that signed up for the promotion. 32% of the people, Scott, 32% of the sports bettors in New Jersey were female. Does that surprise you?
It surprised me, the number. Now, of course, I wasn't going to think that it was supposed to be around like 2%. I thought there were some out there. If I had to put a number to it, I would have guessed 20, 21%. What number would you have guessed?
I would have said around 10%, Scott. And I use a very selfish metric for measuring it, and it's the fact that you and I get a lot of comments on our YouTube videos. We very rarely get comments from females. So again, that could be a thing about females not wanting to put themselves out there. I mean, there could be a ton of other reasons why they're not commenting, because it's kind of bro culture sometimes and turns into, goes off the rails or whatever. So maybe the ladies don't feel comfortable in the environment, but they're making the bet, Scott. And here's the other thing. There was another study, and they did this last year, and I actually read about this when it came out. Women are better sports gamblers than men are, Scott. They have an ROI of plus 20%, while men check in at minus 5%. A couple things surprising there. First of all, men are only losing 5%. That's stunning. And secondly, women are up 20%. Are you kidding me? My God, why do they have day jobs, Scott?
Probably because not enough of them are actually betting.
They have a strategy that I think you and I preach quite a bit.
I actually have, before you actually mention their actual study, I have a conspiracy study on how I think they're making money, but I'll let you go first.
Okay. I can hardly wait. They tend to bet fewer games, and they bet less often, Scott. That's it. They are more selective. They are less emotional about the games. They don't have the built-in heartstrings where, oh, I remember I saw the Texans played 5 years ago and they really were good against the Chargers. They don't know any of that. There's
no way the Yankees are losing 5 in a row.
Right. That's exactly right. They don't have all the built-in fallacies. They don't have all the built-in prejudices against certain teams. There's certain teams to this day, I know it's true, that you and I will not back just because they have screwed us in the past. They've done something horrible. It's usually a accumulation of things they've done in the past. Certain pitchers, certain matchups that we just want no part of. Would you agree with that?
Definitely true. I'm thinking top of my head, college basketball, you can be getting 90 points. I'm never taking Delaware State. I'm never taking really just any team
Arkansas Pine Bluff.
I mean, I was going to talk about our signature team, Mississippi Valley State. I'm never taking the points with them.
Can't do it. Can't do it. So can we learn something from the ladies, Scott?
Well, I have my conspiracy theory.
All right, let's hear it.
So you're talking about how it has to do with them betting less games and, less often, whatever.
Right.
I have the conspiracy theory that they're making money because they're fading their husbands. Which I think sounds brilliant, doesn't it?
Well, that would work if they were plus 5%, but they're plus 20.
I'm just saying they might be
fading everybody's husbands.
They might be realizing no, because when their husband doubles down, then they double down on the other side. But now my question for you is that I am curious about, because there's no real proof to this. What percentage of women do you think out of that 32% are gambling because their husband or they have a significant other that also bets?
More than half.
I would agree with you on that. Whether it involves going to sportsbooks with their husband, whether it involves maybe trying to get a better understanding of sports and they want to join in on the experience, so they also get involved and trying to get a rooting interest in the game that their husband forced them to watch on TV for 3 hours. I think that's a factor. So I am curious how many independently decided, you know what, I want to gamble on sports. Either way, good for them to be profitable. I think the fading husband angle really has legs, and I think you might agree with me on that.
That's solid. That's absolutely solid. I will tell you this, as far as my circumstances go, when my wife and I got together, she knew nothing about sports betting, was a marginal sports fan, knew nothing about sports betting, fell in love with it. Every time we go to Vegas, she sits in the sports book with me. If something were to happen to me, God forbid, if she, decide just she couldn't take it anymore and snap when I forget to put the toilet seat down and killed me, I think she'd still bet on sports. So I think there could be something to that, but I think once the ladies have picked up the habit, I think they still bet.
I think that's definitely true. I'm just saying, I do think that if you're talking about laying the seeds of foundation, I think it's because their husbands probably bet and they wanted to get involved.
All right. Very good. The seeds of foundation. I like that.
I was going to say origin story, but either way works.
By the way, quick reminder, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. And that's what we're fitting to do right now, Scott. We've got pretty full card with baseball. Of course, it is Thursday. It's getaway day. So there are some day games going on, but we'll talk about those night games. If you wanted to bet on Texas and Detroit, can't help you. That's a 1:10 Eastern time start. But there are some night games out there. Scott, Matt Moore, Charlie Morton going at it as Atlanta heads to Philadelphia. Atlanta, the road favorite here, minus 130. 9's your total. Who you got here, my friend?
I'm going to go with Atlanta on this one, which I think might sound a little bit of a hot take because Philadelphia's been very good at home. However, I watched Philly for the last couple of games against the Yankees. They did not look too good. Plus, I saw Harper get injured. He ended up fouling a ball off his foot in the 8th inning. Ended up walking the at-bat. He limped to first base, and he really couldn't move. So I'm assuming Harper's probably going to be out of the lineup for this game based on how bad the injury was. I like Atlanta because Philly's bullpen stinks, and I think if we're talking about a price to lay, Morton's been pretty good lately. So I'll go with Morton. I think you're getting a decent price.
Okay. Scott, if I told you that Matt Moore was the 7th most profitable pitcher in Major League Baseball, would that make a difference to you?
I would have said I'm shocked people are betting AAA.
Wow.
I thought that, come on, that's a pretty good response.
That's not a bad response at all.
Moore I actually thought was going to pitch against the Yankees yesterday, which is why I mentioned that on the air with him and Wojciechowski and how I liked the over. They ended up putting Spencer Howard in instead. But Moore's actually been okay. The issue is length. He's usually going less than 5, which means the bullpen's going to be involved. Have fun. Post extra innings game with the Phillies bullpen. Have fun. I'll take the Braves.
Yeah, he's kind of a weird case because he struggled a lot early, but he's got a 5.25 ERA. He's 6-1. So,
well, he's 0-1. The team is 6-1.
The team is 6-1 in his start. Yeah. Anytime. By the way, this is a good time to say. Anytime I say records like that, It has nothing to do with the pitcher's win-loss record.
Yeah.
That is I don't know if it's the most meaningless stat in all of baseball. It's really close.
I'm also going to tell you, Morton on the road, 2.83 ERA. So he's better on the highway. Do you want to back Philly after they got swept by the Yankees AAA team?
No, Philly is one of those teams I just don't know what to make of them. Yeah.
I think Harper's not going to play, so I do think that should be factored in.
Yeah, and Moore's been really consistent. He goes about 4. He'll pitch into the 5th. He gives up a couple of runs, but then, like you said, you're going to get probably at least 4 innings of the Phillies bullpen. That's not a great thing, although the Phillies bullpen is Scott, there's no way to put it. They struggle, and they struggle even worse at home. So Atlanta's bullpen's no great shakes. Philly's bullpen's a half run worse. So
it's not. But the thing about the Braves, which I do find fascinating, is that they had a doubleheader yesterday. So you might think the Braves bullpen should be exhausted. It's actually the opposite because they only played 1 game. Second game got canceled. They only played 7 innings. So the bullpen should actually be pretty rested for this spot.
Should be in pretty good shape. Scott, it's the battle there in the NL Central. Cubs and Cardinals. Alzolay goes against Kim. Cardinals are the home favorite here. Minus 138 is the number. Kim's been pitching really well, Scott. Do they get another win here?
I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I don't like Alzolay at all. I know he's actually been good at times. Good for him. I think he's bad most of the time, but he has some spots. Kim's just very good. We both liked him last year. We made a lot of money off him last year. This year, we backed him early. He struggled, and we were waiting for him to get back, into form. And he's done that and then some because he's been fantastic. Now, I'm going to take the first 5 because this Cardinals bullpen can't stop blowing saves. I know they won the game yesterday, but they blew another save.
Right.
I'm going to pass on the bullpen. I'll take the Cardinals first 5.
Okay. Yeah, that's solid. I don't love the Cubs pen either.
Oh, Cubs pen's bad. Don't get me wrong. Just the Cardinals pen's been a disaster for the last month. I don't want to touch it.
Okay. All right. Good enough. I will play I'll play the Cardinals there with you. I'll play full game Cardinals. That's fine. I think Kim goes 6 or 7. He hasn't given up a run in his last 3 starts, and they're getting good length out of him. He's gone 6 innings twice and 7 innings the other time. So I think we're going to limit the exposure of that Cardinals pen. Hopefully the Redbirds should have a big enough lead by the end of that one to take care of business. So
sounds good to me.
Righty. Blake Snell and Miami are going at it. Miami is undecided.
Props to Miami, by the way. They only let up 1 run yesterday. They actually did something. They can't score, but they won a game.
They scored. See what happens when you score 3 runs, Miami?
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel, man! I don't know how a team can be consistently bad at scoring runs throughout the years.
I'm not even sure.
It's unbelievable. I know in 19, we've talked about it before. We rode that Miami team total under so hard, and it was there was games it was 2.5. Didn't care.
Well, that they're going to end up trading Marte anyway, so their offense is going to get worse.
Yeah,
there's no way they're keeping Marte.
I'm definitely afraid of that. Although, unless it's a team that thinks they're close,
and they're not. They're in the last place.
They've got now. Again, we talk about this. They've got the pitching to compete, Scott.
That is true, but I do think they're a bit too far back. By the way, I thought that Atlanta might have been a dog. I misspoke. Atlanta's favored. I think they should be.
Yeah, I said they were the road favorite.
Yeah, I know. My bad. I thought I said they were a dog before. No, you did. I thought I misspoke.
No, I'm the king of that, Scott. I'm the king of engage mouth and then have my brain catch up about 5 seconds later. How about Tampa going on the road, playing there in Cleveland against Cal Quantrill?
Your favorite.
Goes for the Cleveland Indians. He's hosed me a couple times this year, Scott. I'm not going to lie. I bet against Cal Quantrill, and he's rated me. Quantrill has definitely rated my bank account. Going against, it says Rick Pitino here. Is that right, Scott?
Luis Patino.
Oh, exactly. I thought
not very good, but he's there.
He's not very good, but at least he's punctual.
He's a youngster, so they're hoping the 21-year-old kind of figures it out. But so far, it has not been a great year for him.
Yeah, both of these guys have ERAs in excess of 5.5. Both of them have whips around 1.4. But yet, Scott, I'm looking at a total of 9. What am I missing here? I know Cleveland doesn't score a ton of runs. They average just 4.3 runs per game. but shouldn't a couple of bad pitchers give us a little bit of hope here?
That's what I would assume. I think a reason why the total seems a bit low is because Tampa's bullpen's been so good. And the fact is, you're assuming that Patino's probably going to go 4 innings tops, and 4 might be generous in the spot. But I did see when I was watching the Rays game yesterday, the last 10 games or 11 games or so, the Rays bullpen ERA, 1.1.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. So I think if you want to take the over, I'll take the first 5 over.
I think that's solid because this is a Cleveland bullpen that's been very good the entire season, 2.77 at home, 3.3 overall. That's say what you want about Tito. He's annoying with the pitching changes, but he knows how to get the most out of his bullpen.
Karinchak pitched yesterday, so you might be thinking, maybe he won't play. He threw 5 pitches. I got a feeling he's probably available for this one.
And Patino has been so bad lately. And, Quantrell has been – he's a battler, Scott. He gave up 1 run his last time out. Did have a quality start before that.
You're gonna have guys on base. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. You are going to have guys. If I was going to play the over, I think I do agree with the first 5. And I will – you know what?
You're going to take a spin with Quantrill?
I am. I'm going to take the plus money play with Cal Quantrill, pick up about plus 130.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take that. How about your boy, Scott? Jordan Montgomery going for the New York Yankees against Tanner Houck for the Bostonians. Young rookie, Scott, the favorite in this one.
I can't say that he's an amazing pitcher, but he does have good stuff. We haven't said that in a couple weeks, have we?
He really does. You know what? I did a little research on this kid because he's obviously a youngster, and he was supposed to start today, and then he actually got bumped back.
Started yesterday, and Richards ended up pitching instead.
Right. Sorry, he was supposed to start on Wednesday. Correct. Sometimes you and I wrote our recording date here, but yes, Richards got bumped from the rainout. He was able to start the game on Wednesday. And Tanner Houck gets moved into the spot. Scott, he's not bad.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's not that bad. And Montgomery has been, I can't say bad, but mediocre with a question mark at the end of it.
Yeah.
Hasn't been good, and that's one way to put it.
So we've got a little opportunity here because the Red Sox are favored. Scott, that would appear to be kind of a mistake. Shouldn't the Yankees be favored here with the veteran on the mound?
I don't know about the veteran part of it, but it's because the Yankees are still missing a decent amount of players. However, the Yankees have won 4 in a row. They've actually been playing well. I don't want to take Boston here. Now, do I like Montgomery? No. This is a pure pass for me. I'm sorry that you gave a whole intro and how you like I can't, because Boston's the better overall team based on roster, but the Yankees are playing well. And I'm not the biggest Montgomery guy. So I'm going to pass. I'm assuming Chapman's not going to pitch because he's pitched each of the last 2 days. So I'm assuming he's probably going to be out. But Chad Green should be available because he didn't pitch yesterday. I'm going to pass, but it's Yankees plus money or pass for me.
All right. Yeah, I think I would lean Red Sox here. I just don't.
It's a pure no play.
I just don't like. Yeah, I don't like laying the wood there. I don't like laying the 120. I'd probably play it straight up, but yeah, it's just there's too many other opportunities here on the board for me. What do you like, Scott?
Looking at everything else, looking at the first 5 under between the Mariners and – actually, you know what? Never mind. I'm just going to take Manaea. I thought about it. I'm just going to take Manaea because Flexen's pitched against Oakland earlier this season. That did not go too well, and Manaea has been pretty good lately. I know that we like Flexen, and how we talk about how he's profitable.
Most profitable pitcher.
I know. Against Oakland, it has not gone too well. I'll tell you what cut into his profit margin was facing Oakland the first time around. So I'll go with Oakland. You?
No, I'm taking Flexen.
Fair enough.
I'm taking plus money on the most profitable pitcher in baseball.
I've been keeping an eye on Manaea. I think he's actually been very good lately. So
do you have kind of an unnatural affection for Sean Manaea?
I really do. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I faded him a couple weeks ago and he burned me, but I just always thought of him as being a steady left-handed pitcher. And maybe I also like him because he had the no-hitter against the Red Sox a couple years ago. Okay. But I just can't get that awful performance by Flexen against Oakland out of my head. where Oakland really just beat them up pretty badly. And I just haven't forgotten it, but I will admit Flexen's been very good. I just think it's a game Oakland wins.
Yeah, that was a game, by the way. Flexen went to 6 innings, give up 7 hits, 5 earned runs.
Not pretty.
And 1 home run. Yeah, not pretty at all. All right, Scott. Well, it is that time, everybody. As advertised, we've reached the end of the show, and we've just got time for one more segment. And it is time to put our heads together, come up with our very best play. Scott, people ask us every day, if you had to bet all your money on one game, which game would it be? And I say, don't bet all your money on one game. That's stupid. But 5% of your bankroll, sure, that's a play. That's the one we're having, Scott. We had to put all our chips in the middle. You had to bet it all on one. This would be the game. Time to put on your straw hat, cinch up those overalls, and climb aboard the tractor, kids. It is time once again for Bet the Farm. Scott, we did have a farm play yesterday. How'd we do?
We faded the Rangers. How do you think that went? We won.
Gotta love the Rangers. My goodness, they have been a cash cow for us, Scott.
I'll give them props. They scored 2 runs yesterday. They scored 2 runs. They're improving.
What? Rangers?
I know, it's crazy. They scored more than 1 run.
They've doubled their weekly output in one game.
They only lost by 2. That's a huge step in the right direction for them.
All right, so it was very tempting to go back to the well, but we didn't. We've got a different play. Scott, what is it?
We're going to be looking at a matchup between the Twins and the Angels, and we like the Twins team total over 4.5 runs at -115 on BetMGM. Looking at the Twins, they have scored at least 5 runs in each of their last 2 games. Meanwhile, you have Heaney on the mound for the Angels, and both of us don't exactly like Andrew Heaney. It's because he's not very good. 5.56 ERA and a 1.36 whip. The Angels have allowed at least 5 runs in 4 of Heaney's last 5 starts. So even when he's pitched well, the bullpen has not done him any favors, and that's going to segue us to the bullpen. Angels have a 4.82 bullpen ERA, which is the 7th worst in the league. We think Minnesota should get to at least 5 in the spot.
Is it just me, or does that bullpen seem like way worse than that?
It really does. And then you realize they're against Minnesota, and you remember there actually are worse bullpens in the league than the Angels.
Those are 2 just utterly horrific pens, and that's why we want no part of getting involved in a side in this game. Maeda's pitching for Minnesota. He's been good lately, but there's a huge caveat on that because he's been good against Detroit teams, and he's been good against Kansas City. Congratulations.
Well, Detroit's amazing, apparently, so I'm going to give him a pass on Detroit.
Well, it's not. They win games, but they're still not scoring a ton of runs because it's still Detroit.
I'm just teasing, but yes.
Yeah, Heaney, he's really struggled in his last 5. I think this is a solid play. Give us the Minnesota Twins team total over 4.5. Let's go bash some home runs up there at Target Field, Scott.
Well, that's kind of the point. Heaney's a lefty. Twins are going to stack the bats with righties. I like my chances.
And wind is actually blowing out a little bit to right field, so it's going to help the lefties as well. So it should be a fun day up there at Target Field. Let's go watch them and let's get some runs. And that's going to do it for our Bet the Farm play, and that's going to do it for this edition of Winners and Whiners Radio. We appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate everybody watching on the YouTube. Don't forget to drop us a comment, like, and subscribe, all that good stuff. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at winnersandwhiners.com, once again, we thank you very much for tuning in. Guys, have a great day. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money when you head back to the window. We'll see you tomorrow on Winners and Whiners Radio. Take care, everybody.